All right, folks. Gabe Donnelly here. It's Tuesday, March 19th. I'm just sort of continuing my video series from yesterday. I put parts 1 of 3 and 2 of 3, but I'm actually thinking now it's better just to maybe create more videos that are shorter and sort of remove that pressure to like cram everything into one video type thing. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna do that, similar to kind of what the first video was, which was like about 20 minutes or so. I'll try to do that. So before we pick up where we left off, I'm gonna just go over my contact info with everyone, and that literally means every person who watches these videos is welcome to in my contact info, and talk about that in a sec. Here is okay, my cell number is area code 541-228-8082, and I write audio messages. Are great. They really are. They're great. You can hear my voice, I can hear your voice. They're great for people's schedules too. You don't have to pick up the phone immediately, that type of thing. But also texting, calling are acceptable, whatever you're comfortable with, communication form. And then my YouTube channel information, name is Gabe Donnelly, and the handle is @GabeDonnelly 45. So, Donnelly is spelled Donnelly, 2 N's, 2 L's. So yeah, that's how you are able to see my see the YouTube videos. And so all of the videos that I post are having to do with the situation here, and so you don't necessarily have to watch them all in chronological order. There really isn't a chronological order. It's complex of a subject, complex enough of a subject where all the pieces do fit together. But if you watch a video or a couple of videos and you wonder, like, well, how does this fit into what he's saying, then all you have to do is just wait 5 minutes or whatever, keep watching the videos and it will make sense. So yeah, I just wanted to say that it is really important, to I don't know, just keep in mind that I'm doing the best I can to make content that's not boring. And I don't like listening to myself talk endlessly. It's really uncomfortable for me. I'm just trying to be thorough and accurate, being as thorough and as accurate as possible. When you're talking about something as serious as we're talking about here, and there's not really a name for it, what we're tackling, and how obvious it is that that people need to sort of stand with me and make that clear on an ongoing basis. I have to be as accurate and as thorough as possible. And I realize that I may yammer on more than I may satisfy a lot of people's bar for that and keep going, but I'm just trying to I got to think of a lot. I got to think of the people who are maybe be confused or may need more information to feel like whatever, to lend credence to what I'm saying, or however you want to put it. So sorry, I'm tired. So on contact information, it's a little dark in here. Whether you have a prior relationship with me or not, where we communicated before, it's not just for those people, it's for anyone. I hope that I can help to get past any kind of whatever it is, embarrassment or a little bit of awkwardness in reaching out to me, and talking about some of these things, and just establishing some sort of relationship. I hope that we can get past that, because yeah, it really demands it, that the situation demands that I reach out to my community, however many of these you fall under: peers, friends, acquaintances, fellow human beings, fellow citizens, part of, community, whether it's local, regional, national, global, universal. However many of those you check off, it's just really important that I reach out to everyone on that front. So if you're wondering like what you can do, or how can I possibly help, or what can I possibly do, or say, or contribute into this situation that'll make it better, I want to share with you maybe to me, like one of the top phrases in the human language, a simple phrase, 6-word phrase, that can mean a lot to me, mean a lot to really anybody. And that phrase is, what can I do to help? I think if you say that, to someone in the right way, in this really genuine, authentic, just a sincere way, you can, bring someone to tears of joy. What can I do to help is such a powerful phrase, because it kind of in its own way, it communicates that a person may not know, or a person doesn't often know how, what it is, or what kind of contribution they have that can help. But since they want to help, and they feel that kind of that need, or connection, or that emotion, and expressing it in that way of, what can I do to help, it's gonna be really powerful. So it wouldn't be lost on me, for sure. And it's not, what can I do to help for like one time. It's just kind of like an ongoing thing, and that's really, really important. The people that are, as I mentioned in the, I talked about extensively in the first 2 videos, these are powerful, committed people, that are connected. And so they're counting on people in my life sort of not having the staying power, or having any kind of conviction to preventing this, or like delving into what the truth is on a intermediate and longer term basis. Like they're counting on people just sort of whatever, this sort of 24-hour news cycle of, oh, okay, oh, thanks, Gabe, you've got our support, let's move on to the next thing. That's what they count on. They count on people essentially not caring over the long term. And so it's just really, really important to understand that I don't need money. I don't need money, no promotional, nothing promotional, nothing like that. It's just people to be aware of the situation, and foster a communication or relationship with me on that front. And there are all kinds of ways to make to contribute. It could be just asking the right questions, and or checking in with me, or simply just making me feel welcome in your community. Hey, we'd love to have you, whatever, in our local area. What I like to say is, what is obvious to one person is not obvious to another, and variations of that is what a person may assume that someone else has in spades, or just a limitless supply of. Maybe that person doesn't have any of those things, or has none of that. And just yeah, like I don't need any, like, I know technically in the United States that I can sort of like go anywhere regionally, but sure would be nice to hear from people like, oh, I'd be delighted to have you in our area, or to connect with you, or to maintain a relationship, to be around you. That's something that I like, that kind of communication and those kind of people are priceless to me right now. It's the only way I'm gonna survive. It's the only way to stop this horror as well. So yeah, and it's also a two-way street too. It's not just when you ask what can I do to help, when you're able to do that, there's obviously a lot of personal satisfaction in being part of a solution or providing relief to someone. Especially, I would hope someone like me who I've got a lot of goodwill, and I try to communicate that up front, and like, whatever, I don't have a criminal record. I don't do anything ugly. There's nothing really I can think of that you have to like hold your nose on, like, oh, yeah, we've got to deal with XYZ from Gabe. Everything else is great about him, but we got, there's yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to say all that. I know these things take time as well. People have to think things over and kind of maybe just get in the right mindset that, yeah, like, your contribution to a situation, whatever it is can be the difference between somebody dying quietly against their will, and or continuing to live a life well lived, where they've got a lot to share and a lot to give, and hopefully a lot of good comes out of the the suffering and the situations that I've had to deal with as a result of this, and that I'll describe here shortly. But yeah, hopefully things can unfold in such a way that of course, like, any person is going to want to think about the things that they've gone through that are indescribably terrible. If ultimately it means that other people won't have to endure the same type of misery and the same type of evil, won't like profit from those situations as well, then that helps to put in perspective what you've gone through, and sort of make it somewhat worth it, or just give a lot of meaning to your life. So that's important to me, and I hope it's important to other people too. When I describe these things, they're unbearable, of course, to deal with in the moment, like horror movie type stuff, and so they're going to be difficult to listen to. I get it. They're difficult to talk about, even now, for me. So let's just kind of get through it, and we'll take it from there. So yesterday we left off with what happened to me on January 15th in Las Vegas, this past January 15th. That's pretty heavy stuff. Yeah, I don't even know what you call that, but one of the things that I talked about briefly, I touched on, was buying my car. I bought a new car in August of 22. That's the car I'm sitting in now, a 2021 Accord. It turns out that this is a major part of the story because this car has a lot of great features, like any new car would have when you look, shop for a new car. So it came with a lot of features that I did want. It came with 2 humongous, horrifying features that I didn't want, that nobody would want, that I've had to discover. And so both of those things have been discovered, but it took me a while to figure them out. And so yeah, I think what we'll do is I'll kind of finish telling the story, or what's happened up to the present moment, and then we'll circle back and I guess I'll sort of chronologically reveal, or I'll reveal what I know about the cars in sort of at the point that I figured it out, I guess is the best way to put it. Sorry. So okay, so after that nightmare in Las Vegas, I drove out to Jacksonville, Florida, and I contacted, like I said, this guy Ira and Jody Herb, and this guy, well, yeah. And so Ira said that when I go out there, I could have 2 weeks, staying at his, at his house, and whatever, to like find a job and get my footing there and all that. And so when you listen to what happened to me on January 15th, like, I didn't even care. Like, I just wanted to go far away from that area, and because understand, I didn't even know at that point how suffocating the situation is a better way to put it. Meaning, I didn't know. So up to that point, I had been, I had noticed these things happening in Boise, and then when I moved to Las Vegas to get away from them, and they were happening like worse than ever there. And so when I make the decision at the end of January to go out to Jacksonville, like, it's still on my mind that, well, is this horror, is this misery, is this going to follow me out to Jacksonville as well? Like, I didn't know. Like, that's a big move that's basically coast to coast. Jesus Christ. That's basically coast to coast. So, once again, you can hope for the best and be relieved if it happens, but if the worst happens, and it, there's also some value, some merit in just being pragmatic and being honest about that, just for purposes of finding out the scope and the extent of what the hell is going on. So yeah, I drive out to Jacksonville, and as I said, with Curtis, Curtis is somebody that I knew from my past as well. His name's Curtis Dvorak. So I contacted him, and then he mentioned, like, right off the bat, that him and Al Nidifer, aka the life insurance agent, have been, 2 peas in a pod communicating, which is it's just a really weird thing to say, to sort of volunteer and like jump out of your skin to tell me, because like, I wasn't asking about, hey, who are you, who do you like communicating with? It doesn't make any sense. So that acknowledgement though by Curtis talking about, oh yeah, me and Al, it does play a huge role down the line, because you have to remember, Al's a life insurance agent. So make a very long past story short here. One of the main reasons we know that Al Nidifer is complicit in this plan happens to be, we had a dress rehearsal where somebody almost took my life in Missouri, And in that instance, people, my mom and company, they thought I was dead. And so they had Al Nidifer, who, as I said, who's not even a friend of mine. He's like peripherally, I know him, but he basically, on the day I was supposedly, shot to death by this guy, Courtney, a whole nother story, in Missouri, he reaches out and says, hey Gabe, what's new? Like, on literally like hours after this guy Courtney was supposed to shoot, like, kill me. Sorry. And so when Al texted that, like, I was almost sort of ready for that, but it definitely sent chills down your spine. And I made sure to not respond to that text in any way, shape, or form. In other words, I accounted for the infinitesimal chance that it was Al reaching out and just coincidentally, accidentally, just happening to be checking in, right? I accounted for that by saying nothing at all, right? Meaning, I wanted to make sure that if he really wanted to know if I was still alive, he'd have to text me again in short order. And so it was like maybe 5 days later, with total silence, like, Al texts me again. This is with me on the other side of the country from Brookings, Oregon. And it says, Gabe, what's going on? What's new? Like, again, sort of demanding to hear from me. Once again, this is not somebody who is a friend of mine. This is a life insurance agent. And think about how the significance of this. If in the unlikely event of a water landing, in the unlikely event of Gabe dying, well, that would trigger the plan of Al Nidifer, whatever, writing up the faulty scam life insurance policy to begin whatever period of them meaning my mom and Tommy and company, paying the premiums for a short amount of time so they could collect the massive life insurance policy. Does that make sense? It should. So in order to get that started, though, the first thing that would have to happen was that whatever insurance agent was complicit in that, they'd have to have confirmation that you'd be dead, that you wouldn't be alive. And so that's why Al, it's like it was on November 29th. 2020 or 2021. That's why he was kicking down my door, because they didn't know this guy Courtney. And so the second time, when he, like 5 or 6 days later, when he says, okay, what's going on here? What's new? I texted back Al, hey Al, in big capital letters, I am alive and well. And then some other sentence fragment. And then he responded back, of course, basically with one text saying, oh yeah, I'm just doing like one sentence back, and that was it. In other words, confirming, of course, that he has absolutely no interest in having a conversation with me or actually knowing anything about me. He just wanted to know if I was still alive. I'm not even kidding. So this time around, as I'm driving from Las Vegas to Jacksonville, what happens? Curtis, who I contact on the way out there, volunteers to me that, oh yeah, me and Al Nidifer, we've just been, like I said, two peas in a pod. We communicate all the time over how many push-ups and sit-ups they're doing. In other words, they're accounting. Earlier in part 2, I referred to my mom as a pretense creator, and there's evidence of this in all the relationships you have that she has. It rubs off in this kind of way, right? When I guess it's just really hard to explain, but when you know somebody, you know them, right? And so it's just really easy it's incredibly easy to imagine my mom instructing Curtis right, to have this conversation, or to sort of do that, just strategize in this manner. Like, I can literally, hear my mom and the tone that she uses in such things. So I've seen her do it so many times in my life before on a variety of topics. So by Curtis saying those things, saying that, it rectifies any possibility of what happened last time, meaning Al having to reach out blindly in a way, or in a manner that he doesn't have a contact. See, he couldn't. Courtney was unwilling to confirm or deny, my death or whatever. Like, he went, whatever you want to call it, like 0 dark 30 on communication. That was the plan ahead of time. So this time around, they wanted to alleviate that problem, meaning have an explanation for why Curtis is texting back Al, okay, job done, Gabe's dead, or whatever the agreed upon, sort of communication is going to be. They'd have to have that accounted for as to why is Curtis relaying any information at all to Al, the life insurance agent? Well, it turns out that, they're just like two peas in a pod. They communicate all the time, and there's nothing suspicious about this all the time. Or, there's nothing suspicious about this at all. So I don't know how many different ways I can really put it here, but I'm just really making sure to hammer this point home because it's an important one. Yeah. If the first time around they would have had a relationship, if, they would have cleared the runway by Courtney saying, oh yeah, me and Al Nidifer, it wouldn't have made sense because Courtney doesn't know Al Nidifer previously. But if they would have had a reason for Courtney and Al to like communicate directly, well, then Courtney would have been able to tell him, oh, by the way, Gabe's still alive, like, don't reach out, type thing. But they didn't have that relationship. And so he didn't, there's a lot of other little variables, but if a person's listening to this and they don't understand at this point, then just reach out to me and we'll go over it because it's an important point. Okay, but when Curtis says that, I know the deal. I'm going out there and Jesus, like, these people are already posturing for a situation, with that accounts for my death. Obviously, duh. I hate that fucking noise. Sorry. And so, like, this is another moment that just lends itself to showing like how desensitized or jaded I am to this type of thing that happened in my life. Like, a normal person should, like, in a normal situation, this is gonna be like headline news. Like, oh my God, can you believe this? But in my life, it's just totally normal. So yeah, I'm on guard when I go out to Jacksonville, but what ends up happening is, I start working for Uber when I'm out there and staying at Ira's house, and I have a lunch with Curtis, which is like the most bizarre lunch in the world. And yeah, it's like dripping with all kinds of suffice it to say, it needs a massive amount of explanations from Curtis. But he's not necessarily worried about it because it's clear that he thinks I'm going to, be dead pretty soon. So understand what's happening here is, once again, the dynamic is in play where wherever I go, the people, in this case, Ira and Jody and Curtis, they've been sold a bill of goods by my mom and Tommy. When I say sold a bill of goods, they're offered definitely a sum of money, Whether it's residual or not, I don't know. But an irresistible sum of money to like play their part. And it's sold to them in such a way that, they're of it being a fait accompli. Like, oh, this is going to happen to Gabe either way, no matter what. So you can either, be part of this, be part of it, make some money, or you can sit on the sidelines and do nothing. That type of thing. And unfortunately, both Ira and Curtis, they're pretty sleazy guys, but as I said before, there's a big difference between being sleazy and then being complicit or a party to a situation where an innocent person is going to be murdered for money. At no point do I concede that a person, just because they're of whatever, they're not like comprised of the highest integrity or whatever, should automatically slide to looking the other way or being part of a situation where somebody's murdered against their will, of course. So that's pretty powerful, and I can tell that it's being done not in a way, this is worth saying too, not in a manner that they're being strong-armed or against their will, like they're fearful and like, oh, I don't. No, they're enthusiastically doing it. Curtis has never been happier. Ira, my God, I've never seen that guy more excited and happy and laughing and talk about loose and not having a care in the world. So what comes to pass is, I mean, you can just imagine how smug and awful this guy Ira was. He starts asking me this begins on like a Thursday. Yeah, it's a Thursday. So that would be around the 15th of February, okay? So we go out to dinner on a Thursday, meaning me, Ira, his wife Jody, and Sarah, their daughter, shows up from St. Simon, I guess is where she lives, sort of unannounced. They didn't say anything, but she shows up, and not somebody that I see that often, but you can just kind of tell that both Jody and Sarah are a lot more nervous than Ira is about something. But we go out to dinner at this place, pretty casual place, and when we get back from dinner, Ira starts asking me these questions about, hey, so about, am I the only heir to to the ranch? And it's some really like leading questions about me, my knowledge of being the heir to the ranch, and stuff that he shouldn't, like, not only is it none of his business, but I don't even have the answers to these questions. I don't even know. Like, and why would he want to have those answers right then and there? And for what reason? And he asked me, "What about your sister? How often do you keep in contact with her?" Remember, I had gotten there like 10 days ago. So it wasn't like, he could have asked those questions before. But moreover, how does Ira even know I have a sister? I haven't talked to Ira about my sister ever before. How does he know? Even if he knows, like, how would he remember? Or, do you talk to your sister? Or how often do you communicate with her? And all that. And so, yeah, those kind of questions. And then remember what I said was maybe obvious to some people, but it's worth stating. When people expect when people expect that you're going to not be around, to be dead or not be around, when they're really confident about it, they're gonna, I mean, different people react in different ways, but by and large, they feel the coast is clear while in the time that you're still alive to kind of get away with asking certain things that, you know, if you were to go on, continue on living your life normally, would require a massive explanation from them, you know, as to why they're asking those questions. But in the event that they think you're dying like literally tomorrow or the day after, they couldn't care less. They just want to know, because they have certain, you know, they have certain questions that need to be answered about whatever. Yeah, we'll get into that. But Ira continues to unravel that evening by basically saying that he has dealings, again, that he has dealings with my mom. Folks, you talk about an admission of guilt. You know, I was like answering his questions about, you know, heirs and all that. I just basically said, hey, you know, my mom's involved in a serious life, and you know, just told him the truth. And you know, she needs money, and you know, I was trying to speak to him in a certain way, like wherever I go, you know, the people I stay with or around are contacted and asked to be a part of this in some way, and are offered money, and they don't realize it, but you know, they're just being asked to be part of you know, the blame when I do, you know, when I, you know, if I am murdered, they're not actually going to receive some massive sum of money. Like, I can just tell, folks, my mom is pretty ruthless, really ruthless, and there's no way in the world, I'm telling you, like, trust me, there's no way in the world my mom would ever let a loose end like Curtis or Ira and Jody just be out there, or Derek and all that, like basically in a position where she has to pay them to keep quiet. Like, no way. It's like, I don't even know how to, it is difficult to exaggerate the degree of absurdity involved in that. It is so, it's maybe the only good thing about dealing with people who are greedy and sort of just like that self-absorbed is that they're very easily sold on the fact, like, yeah, you know, me, I'm gonna do my part, I'm gonna get money, you know, like what's sort of the level of betrayal involved with what my mom is doing to me. They seem to, my mom's very good at creating an argument or sort of like building trust with people who, you know, are, that she wants to join in whatever horrifying act that she's doing. But it just doesn't occur to them that, like, it really isn't personal with my mom, meaning she's not trying to take my life because she's mad at me or there's some like gigantic, you know, like vendetta. It's just about money, right? My mom knows what kind of person I am, and I can, as much as she wants money and is willing to stop at nothing to kind of uphold her image and all that, like she definitely has like way more respect for me than like people like Ira and Curtis, which I know for a fact, like, she hates those guys. I know, like yeah, just from my previous dealings with them through my whole life. So there's that angle, but I'm trying to sort of communicate that delicately to Ira, and he, on Thursday the 15th, and he says, he's basically making excuses about why, well, your mom doesn't need money, you know, she has this income and that income, like, as if, like, he not only has reason to defend my mom, who's done all kinds of horrifying insurance frauds and all that, but like, how would he be privy to what my mom, you know, the income my mom earns? And so I tell him a few stories about like some of the things that my mom has done, and then he seems to be hung up on the fact that, like, oh, well, she earns a Social Security check. Like, how do you know, Ira? How do you know? I've never seen my mom, you know, get a Social Security check, and even then, it wouldn't be that much money. I don't think my mom's worked that, you know, that many quarters in the system. So we kind of get out on this thing, and And he said, well, what about the rental income? I go, what rental income? She burned down her house. She didn't have the vacation rentals, hardly any vacation rentals anymore, if any at all. She burned down her house and had to move into the guest house. So, what income are you talking about? Well, I don't know. So he's already like trying to make excuses for her, and giving away the fact that he had, discussions with my mom, which is like I said, totally. There's not any even peripheral way to spin that in such a way that it would happen innocently or naturally or anything like that. So anything like that. These are people on two opposite ends, on two opposite coasts that have no business interest, overlapping business interest. And I just asked to come out to Jacksonville like 2 weeks prior. And so now Ira's asking me questions out of nowhere and sort of acknowledging that, oh yeah, your mom is he's never met my mom supposedly and all that. So he's the second consecutive person. Derek did the same thing. I forgot to mention, Derek on the day before September 13th, actually said to me, so Gabe, why do you, what's the deal with this property that you're basically passing on the ranch? He said, that's your property. Like, in other words, he was, the day before I was supposed to be like murdered at a warehouse or in the middle of nowhere, Derek asked me the question of, I've got to know, Gabe, like, why is it that you're passing on some sort of giant opportunity on the ranch? And so what he reveals is that my mom sold him via forged documents on this idea that I had passed up some sort of massive land, piece of property that I'm entitled to on the ranch. And that, how convenient, my mom, like, Derek's not a complete meathead, I guess. So he thinks he's smart enough not to accept like straight up or, be sold on accepting straight up cash, to be a part of a situation where I'm dead, because like he knows that my mom needs money. So what does my mom do? She does what she always does. She creates a story, and with forgeable documents to back it up, that seems believable. And this story is well, yeah, Gabe passed on this parcel of land, but see, only he has the right to own it or sell it or whatever. So, I'd really like, of course I'd like to sell it and pocket the money myself, but I can't because I'm not Gabe. And so she offers the land to Derek in exchange, of course, for getting rid of me, because then once I'm out of the picture, Derek is going to be the person who is going to pretend to be me with all the credentials that my social security card, my original birth certificate, all that stuff that I talked about earlier. So that's the plan. I probably should have expanded on that in the previous video. But that's like, think about just how damning that is. So yeah, Derek on September 12th wants to know from me why it is that I passed on this massive piece of land. Like, he's actually been sold on that. And I tell him straight up, I go, Derek, that's total bullshit. Of course it is. That's total bullshit. Like, yeah, like I don't want to have anything to do with my mom. That's for sure. But as far as anything that I'm truly entitled to, some massive amount of, some piece of land that, yeah, it hasn't happened. And it's not true. Like, that's, in addition to all of that, once again, Derek is not supposed to know my mom. What would he be doing talking to her? Folks, like, look how obvious the situation is, right? How nefarious and how, just Like, they're leaking oil, but like, I guess another way to put it is, look how necessary and mandatory it is to have me dead and silenced, to not bring all these facts, to anyone's attention. Okay. And if I wasn't bringing it to attention, then there's no way anybody would know this. Think about that. Okay. Like, look at the difference between what I'm telling you in these videos, what I'm explaining, and that knowledge being out there and me being dead. It's like so massive that it's hard to even explain. It's not just the fact that, I'd be dead and open the door up to this huge life insurance, policy that my mom wants to collect on, but it's also means that there's no possible way that anyone can be caught, because I'm not going to, the only person like privy to these nefarious conversations that has any, interest in getting these to authorities would be dead. That'd be me. So it just turns out to be fortunate that people that are this greedy and sort of simpletons like Ira and Derek, they're so confident in the plans that I'd be dead and wouldn't be able to say anything, that they actually asked me, and wanted to know why it is, and all, they had certain questions that arose from whatever promises my mom made that they wanted to have answered. Okay. Boom. And it immediately becomes clear in the Ira situation back in Jacksonville, why he would be asking certain questions about, well, how often do you talk to your sister and all that? It turns out in Jacksonville, so Ira says that there's, that Jody was having a retirement party. That was his big thing on the 17th, which is a Saturday. But see, and so I'm there from like Jody retired from the PGA Tour not that long ago. But while I'm there in the days leading up to there, I can clearly see that the retirement party had already taken place. Okay, it wasn't on the 17th. There was all these cards, and whenever the retirement party was, it was definitely before I got there. And so I kind of know. I haven't said anything to them, but I kind of know that, okay, the expiration date on my situation is probably, going to be, before, a couple days before the 17th, but definitely be ready on the 17th for sure. So I'm doing my Uber thing, but then that Thursday night and Friday night, the 15th and 16th, I can tell that they're really wanting me to go out on Uber and do, because Uber is voluntary. You can kind of just, and I don't say anything to them at all. All three of them are there in the living room. Ira, Jody, and Sarah. And it's just funny, the idea of Sarah showing up for a weekend to watch TV with their parents. But so Thursday night passes, and I don't say anything, but I don't go out on Uber. And then, much to their surprise. And then Friday night, they're certain that I'm going to do it. Friday night's a big night on Uber and all that. And I don't say anything again, and I don't go out again on Uber. And so another thing that occurs is I also kind of hear them talking to each other about, well, what are we going to do? What are we not? I essentially hear, whispers about, that confirm that the plan, whatever plan they hadn't accounted for the fact of me lasting until Saturday the 17th, where they're supposed to have a retirement party, but I know it's not happening. So yeah, on that Saturday, I'm still there. I wake up and I kind of pack up a little bit of my things, and I put them in the car, and supposedly, like, people aren't coming over till 5:30, but I just got a really scary vibe from the whole thing. So I just quietly went, put Mongoose in the car and, made a reservation at a hotel. Yeah, this is really awful. So, then I say to Ira, I go, "Hey, Ira, let me have a word with you out in the car." And I just said, I was sitting in the driver's seat like I am now, and he's in the front seat. And I said, "Ira, man, I said, do you know what my life has been like the last few years, man? It's been really hard and terrifying, and just basically said to him, man, you really had an opportunity here just to be welcoming and to really just whatever, have humanity and just, God, I mean, like, just be a friend." And I said, "Listen, man, whatever it is that you've been promised, or whatever these things are, like, dude, like, they're not gonna happen, man. This is how my mom gets people caught up in these things, so she can blame, so she has somebody to point the finger at when things actually happen, and that, not because she wants to have extra liabilities and, like, pay out, whatever. I say that very diplomatically. And Ira, of course, says, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And then, all right, Mom. So then I drive, just drive out. It wasn't like, I was very careful not to have it be characterized as a falling out or anything like that. I just made sure to just let him know, like, hey, like, this is hard for me, and I wish he wouldn't have been dishonest with me. But yeah, so I went and made a hotel reservation, and I stay at Motel 6 a lot because they allow pets. So I made a reservation there, and then I arrived there, and it was weird. It was really weird. They said, "Sorry, we don't have any rooms available." I just made a reservation there, and there's nobody there. And I'm just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? A reservation? There's nobody here. What's the deal? Sorry. Like, they asked me my name first, and then they said, "Oh, there's no rooms available." And I thought, man, that is really, really weird. But okay, fine. So I end up going to another hotel, and that turns out to be a really miserable, frightening experience. But I survived that night, long story short. And so the next night, I make another reservation at Motel 6, okay? The same Motel 6. This is in Jacksonville, Florida. And it accepts, it takes my reservation, and I drive right over there. And again, for the second day in a row, the person asked for my name, and there's nobody there, okay, at the Motel 6. And and then she says, "Sorry, we don't have any rooms available." I said, "Come on, there's nobody here. What are you talking about? I made a reservation. Here's my confirmation. Sorry, no, tell you, there's no rooms available." And so I said, at that point, like, I know something, like, is up, but I don't, like, this is not a coincidence. So I end up calling the police, the sheriff, whatever, the local county sheriff, I guess. Well, okay, I called 311 first, and then to ask them, I go, like, what's this, protocol here? Like, should I have an officer come out and investigate? It's not an emergency per se, but it's very, whatever. I'm very pragmatic and measured in those types of scenarios. So ultimately, they say, yeah, you can have an officer come out, and so I say, okay, I'll wait here for an officer to show up, at the Motel 6. So some time goes by, and an officer shows up, sort of. It's really weird. He arrives, but when he arrives, I see him, he goes up to one of the guys that's standing on the corner the whole time, like, who I've never met, and that guy points at me and essentially say it's that guy. And so then the officer comes over to me, which, if you just think about that, that's, yeah. And the first thing I notice is the guy doesn't have a name on, name tag or a name on or anything like that, and he doesn't have like a gun, or it doesn't seem like a real officer. But whatever, I notice those things, but I just figure, okay, whatever. I don't call the police that often, if ever at all, so maybe that's just like a local thing. So I tell him the situation. Yeah, like, Oh, also, by the way, I called Motel 6 headquarters and said, hey, what's the deal? And they, at the headquarters, they were befuddled too. They're saying, yeah, I don't understand what the problem is here. There's no, there's plenty of vacancies. So they called. This is the Motel 6 headquarters. They tried to get a hold of the manager at that Motel 6, and then they came back online and said, oh yeah, we tried to get a hold of the manager, but we couldn't get a hold of her, and some excuse. But it's clear that me staying at that hotel, for some reason, somebody is trying to prevent me from staying there. Okay? I know it sounds, typically that sounds crazy, but here we have the proof. So when this officer arrives, I try to tell him the situation, but he like cuts me off and says, "Sir, there's no vacancies at this hotel. So get like sternly, like, get over it." I said, "Wait, like, did you go in there and talk to him already?" "Yep, I already went in there and talked to him. She said there's no vacancies. So sorry, there's no crime has been committed." So it's like really aggressive, as if I was calling the police to like file a report or something, which of course I wasn't. I was just sort of investigating, or the key is documenting. Also, in case, a big part of it is, in case something happens to me, calling the police and having an officer out there, they should take your name down, right? Your name and your license number and whatever, and create a log, so that, in other words, if something happens to you later on, right, then they would have that official, whatever, encounter or meeting of you and the police in the logbook, and that would be a pretty big piece of evidence saying that I was still alive at that point. And yeah, in other words, okay, another way to put it is, if later on I call 911 because of some situation, right, and then I reference the situation where I had called 911 and an officer came out, that creates sort of a chronological log of what happens. But what happens when this officer gets there? He makes it a point of the first time ever, to not take down my name. Nope, like he's in a big hurry to get out of there. Nope, I say, hey, wait a minute, don't you want to take down my name, my information and all that? It's important. Like, somebody like me doesn't have a criminal record, doesn't have weapons. When I interact with the police, like, I view it as just two citizens who should be doing the right thing, demonstrating that to each other. And so he says, nope, like trying to put distance between me and him. Nope, no crime has been committed. I'm not taking down your name. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. And he says, sir, like he cuts me off again. Like basically, sir, last warning, unless you want me to do something horrible to you, like shut the fuck up. Won't take down my name. And so I get in the car at that point. I'm just like, wow, this is really, really heavy stuff. Okay. I try to make 2 reservations at the same hotel. They accept them. When I walk in, give them my name, they say suddenly there's no vacancy. We don't have a room for you, even though there's nobody there at the hotel. Happens twice. Then I call the police, the local police. They show up he shows up without anything to identify him, the officer himself. And then for the first time ever, makes it a point to not take down my name, and log that, Gabe Donnelly had such and such concerns or whatever at such and such time. Where do you think this is going, folks? By the way, now it's Sunday, right? Sunday the 18th. So I'm like, okay, well, geez, where am I going to stay now? So I look up on my phone. I make a reservation at the Holiday Inn Express, or at a Holiday Inn, which is somewhat close by, and listen to what happens there. I mean, I should have known better, I guess, but I just didn't. You think you go to a hotel like a chain like the Holiday Inn, and you're gonna be okay, right? Like certainly nothing can happen to you there, right? Or any hotel with a corporate name and a safe area. What? Yeah. So I get there after making the hotel, and I'm being swarmed big time, like I was. Basically, I arrived there and there's all kinds of cars following me, to that location. Big time. Like in your face type stuff. And I don't, yeah. I go in, I've got Mongoose with me, okay? But this place accepts pets. And so I go in there, I check in. They give me a room. It's a place on the it's a hotel that has 5 stories. And so she gives me a room on the 4th floor. And the only way to get up there is via elevator. And the other way is the stairs, but the stairs it's just a really isolated sort of setup where it's I'd be remiss not to explain the differences between the hotel that I made a reservation at twice and they canceled, or they didn't cancel, they essentially wouldn't let me use that hotel, and the hotel that I was ultimately checked into, right? That's what the situation calls for here. So at the Motel 6, it was one of those, there was 2 or 3 levels, but it was an outdoor situation, right? Where all the hotel doors are, face outdoors, even on the 3rd level. Makes sense? But at the Holiday Inn Express here, it's like a typical typical hotel where everything is contained indoors. And so, let's see where this is going. Yeah, I put Mongoose in the room, then I go back down to the hotel, or I go back down to the car, and I'm being swarmed in such a way that the parking spaces at the hotel, there are people standing by the cars, and I can't park in a space where I can get out, where basically I can park and get out without a person standing there. Not even kidding. To the point where I call my aunt and uncle, Rick and Tammy, and I tell them the situation. I go, this is really scary. I'm freaked out. Like, I try to tell them the situation about the parking. Wherever I go in the parking lot, these people follow me around in the car, and I can't park in a space where, you know, where, yeah, like there's spaces available, but in such a way it's always like right next to another car, and the parking lot's filling up fast. This is at 10 o'clock at night. So, yeah, I ultimately go up to my room again. This is a little bit scatterbrain here, but just mentioning that I called my aunt and uncle and wanted them to stick on the phone with me, because I wasn't sure at that moment what was going on with the people outside, sort of, yeah, kind of, whatever you want to call that, stalking, harassing, what would you call that? So I go up to the room again, and you know, Mongoose is in there, and I noticed that there's also like a beam of light from across the street, like beaming right into the room. So I was like, put the curtains up and all that. It's like, wow, fine, maybe that's coincidence. So I am a person who likes cool air, you know. Whether, you know, if I'm at home, I'll leave a screen door, you know, open so they can get some fresh air. And if I'm in a hotel, I tend to like, you know, cool air going. So when I get in this hotel room, the cool air is blasting. So initially, I think great. And I don't pay too much attention to it. So then some time goes by, and I notice that the cool air is really blasting, so I want to turn it down. Right? So I go to the thermostat, and I've never seen anything like it. So I can't turn down. Not only can I not turn the temperature of the thermostat in you know, up or down or anything, I can't turn the intensity of the air off. And this is true whether or not I use the thing on the wall or go to, you know, on site to where the air is blowing out. I've never seen a setup like this in my life. I swear to God. You're talking to somebody, or you're listening to somebody here that I'm really a wizard at that kind of stuff. You know, just with, you know, yeah, we used to have vacation rentals. I'm always figuring that kind of stuff out. No problem. I can figure that out. So I call the front desk after a while of trying to, you know, get this. It's cold enough that Mongoose, who, I mean, he's a cat with a fur coat, he's cold. And, you know, I mean, so I call the front desk. This is like now at 5 a.m, and I say, hey, I explain that situation, and she's just like, well, she was really unaccommodating at the front desk, saying, you know, oh, she said, well, basically, you know, would you like another room? It sounds tempting. You know, sure. I say, well, no, you know, what's the story with the air here? Everything's fine in this room. You know, why can't I turn the air off or turn the temperature or anything? Oh, well, you know, I don't know. You know, maybe you just need a new room. I said, well, no, can you send someone up here, like a technician? No, you know, no, there's some reason that there's not any technician able to do it. It's like, oh, well, this is really strange. Like, it's blasting out freezing cold air, and there's no way to turn it down or anything like that. And she goes, well, you can have a new room. And I just get the feeling, of course, that having a new room is, in order to make good on that new room, I'd have to, of course, venture out of that room, and then to get down to the front desk, I'd have to. And I kind of start realizing the horror of the situation. I don't want to acknowledge it. I'm still, of course, hoping it's going to be a coincidence, but I realized just in her enticing me to, oh yeah, why don't you just, you know, have a new room, and then not wanting to fix the problem of the of the air. Like, this is a really serious problem with the air. Like, it's definitely intentional that it's blasting out air and there's no way you can augment it. So I said, oh, no, I'll just figure it out type thing. Oh, okay, fine. And then what comes to pass is, yes, folks, what these people do, once again, I say these people, we're talking about, my mom and the people that she's partnered with, Tommy and company. They get you in situations similar to the Las Vegas situation where I was at home and I couldn't get out of. They get you in situations where you're trapped somewhere and you can't come out of them. Okay, you can't make it out safely. You can't make it to safety. Or otherwise contact whatever emergency services. They stand between you and what we all take for granted, which is, of course, like we'll be able to get to safety or get to somebody who call emergency services. Yeah. And so that's what they do. And so in this situation, I decided to stay another night trying to figure out what to do about the situation. Because I knew of what a nightmare problem I had ahead of me. In order to even get down to the lobby, I would have to take a very slow. I just sort of knew that I was isolated at that point on the 4th floor, and then the stairs were all isolated indoors. And so I actually took the stairs when I first came in, just to case the joint, so to speak. And so it was one of those classic ones where if you open the door to go take the stairs, you're like locked in, but the other doors, so if you take the stairs on the 4th floor, if you walk down to the 3rd floor, there's a door there to get to the 3rd floor, but it's like one of those iron doors, that you'd have to hope it wasn't locked on the other side, and all the way down to the lobby. So in other words, if you open that stairs door, there's a really good chance you won't be able to get back in those stairs there. A really good chance. But even if you can, it doesn't matter how you try to make it down to the lobby, whether you do it by the stairs or the elevator, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. And so this is where the cell site simulators come into play, where, remember what I said about the officer, me calling the police the night before, right? That's why the officer, or whatever, the person that came out either pretending to be the police or whatever he was, the number that I dialed was on the cell simulator network. So how do I describe this? They were able to, when you're on the cell simulator network, they were able to just isolate your call and just wait for your call, so you don't get the real 911 or whatever 311. So that's how they sent out that officer. And did you just hear the experience I had with that officer? It's like unbelievable. So yeah, that's how that. Look how everywhere you look in this situation is isolation. The cell site simulator isolates you from, or the cell site simulator network makes it so that you don't realize it, but you're isolated from true emergency services, true 911, right? So, yeah. And then because of this, situations can happen with the police or with whoever that was, where no matter how appalled I was in that situation, well, how am I going to report that? Well, by calling the police or calling whoever I call or whatever I do, like what are my options? You see how once you start thinking in a manner of isolation, where a person is by themselves and they're single, right? And and they're cut off from true emergency services on the cell site simulator network, then you can do anything under the sun to them, and there's no way for them to get help. They're finished. They're fucking finished. All right? It's terrifying. So I realized in that hotel room on the 4th floor in room 412 and the Holiday Inn Express. Just imagine the situation, folks. You're isolated. I still hadn't quite figured out the cell site simulator thing yet, but I knew at that point that something was really wrong. I knew that I couldn't call out for emergency services because of what happened to me in Las Vegas. Happened in Las Vegas, and what happened the night before in the police. So I started frantically, a lot of things started happening in that situation. For one, on the other side of the wall, they had people who they basically broke into your phone via the Wi-Fi network. And so similar to exact same thing that happened in Las Vegas, what they do is that they aim to drain your cell phone, okay? And I didn't have any cell phone chargers. That was another thing. I had those in the car, and I was looking for them the night that I checked in. I was looking forever for a cell phone charger. I couldn't find one. But you just don't, you didn't think that one of those, maybe I probably sound really stupid after what happened to me in Las Vegas to not see it coming in this situation, but you're just caught off guard. I was, at least, with the Holiday Inn Express situation. So I didn't have a cell phone charger, and it's just so creepy. Like, they know it. And so the people on the other side of the wall, I can hear them, and they're literally breaking into. I had an Android phone, and I had 2 phones, but one of them is on the cell site simulator network. That one, was just about drained. And then I had another Android one. But basically, what they do is they take over, and they like all the settings on your phone gets pumped up. All the sound goes up. And so you can't keep them out of there until you turn your phone off. It's crazy. It's like fucking crazy. At least on the Android one. On the iPhone one, you can, but again, you have no charger, and then you're also left with the experience of, like I said the night before, where you called the police and you got that experience. So you're like, it's so terrible, folks. And you're left knowing that, oh my God, if I don't get out of the situation, like they're gonna like shoot me, like whatever, beat me to death, and in this stairwell or on this floor, and it won't matter how loud I scream or anything like that, I won't be able to call. They've got everything accounted for, right? So you're probably watching this and thinking, well, Jesus Christ, like how the fuck did you get out of this situation, game? It is miraculous. This should show anyone that you just don't ever know what sort of effort or what sort of what seemingly innocuous or innocent or not even that, whatever, like hard of an idea to execute. You never know what it is that's gonna be the miraculous unlocking of the safe, or the shot that you throw up from 3/4 court that goes in at the buzzer. Whatever it is, you just keep trying, and you won't believe how it is. What saves my life? Because at a certain point, I'm down to the phone that is in the hotel room, the landline, right? So I don't have my cell phones, whatever, they're out of batteries. slash on the cell site simulator. And so you're down to that. Like you could walk out of there, but all of this stuff hasn't been engineered or orchestrated for me to just walk out of there and continue my life. Obviously, duh. So I can't tell you the amount of terror it is. I call my aunt. Understand, when your cell phone is drained or it's off, so that means that every number that you call, you have to remember. It has to be all the numbers that you remember in your head. That's one of the things that saves my life. I remember, Russ Huntermer's number, 541-419-2634. I remember John Villavicencio's number, 650-784-9579. Todd's number, 541-815-5271. Jay Brennan, 541-913-5738. I remember those numbers. My Uncle Rick and Tammy's number, 831-247-3388. Those are numbers that I remember. I'm a very rare person who can recall the actual numerical portions of numbers without just going to your phone book and hitting dial. So that's one thing that saves my life. But even then, it's not enough. Like, I call my aunt and uncle, and see, describing the situation, like I've got an hour, in this situation, I've got an hour and 20 minutes here. There's part 1 and part 2. A person can definitely see that what I'm saying is true, and there's a multiple, ways to corroborate this, to cross-reference, whatever you want to call it. But in that instance, you're frantic. You don't even know how long you're going to be afforded this ancient. And it's not even one of those like phones where it's one of those ones. It's a nightmare. It's one of those ones you pick up the phone, you hold it in your hand, and you have to dial, on the back side of the receiver, or as opposed to like putting the receiver up to your ear and then dialing with the other hand on the phone. And the volumes turn all is so hard. It was so hard. So I called my aunt and uncle. I tried to explain the situation, but see, how do you explain? Here's another monster hurdle. How do you explain to ordinary people just living their lives when they get this phone call that you can't walk out of a hotel? Like, you're going to be literally murdered if you walk out of your hotel room. Like, imagine just the agony of that. That's freaking terrible. And I'm not one of those people who like just wants to live their life, like just to like experience like as much like pleasure as I can and just like die. I mean, like, for me, it makes a really big difference to be able to just be able to impact people in a positive way. It's like I got into whatever, like youth soccer coaching, which was really fun for me. Just stuff like that, where it's not about money, it's not about anything, but just providing a good experience for someone. I like doing stuff like that, and you just feel like your life's gonna be cut short, and it's not. You haven't been able to come close to like fulfilling all the things you can do. And not only that, but like the last fucking like 10 years of my life, I've had to deal with this type of shit. And how do I even describe that to people? So that's what you're tasked with. I have no weapons. I've got Mongoose with me, he is something. People might notice like his 3 videos. Mongoose is nowhere to be found in these videos. Wait until you hear what they did to him. It's fucking unbearable. But first we'll concentrate on what happened in that hotel room. I dialed all the numbers I could think of, those people I named. And I left them messages, and I told them to call back. And that was another thing, is that we found out that people couldn't call back. Only way to get through to me was to call the hotel and then demand to be put through to, or basically say that, hey, I tried to get through to 412, but it's not working. Can you please call them? Or basically, the hotel people would have to then call me and say, so-and-so called back, now it's time to call them. Like, they had a situation where you couldn't get through to me live to call me back. So I gave them the information to call me back, but it was already rigged so that like, that's pretty, like, it was so far rigged against me. And so I call those people, left messages for Russ and John and James. I spent a lot of time talking to Rick and Tammy, and I couldn't get through to them. I mean, I'm meaning metaphorically. You could tell they just thought that I was. It's a really sad situation where, my mom is in Tammy's ear all the time, and so that's how she is able to proliferate misinformation. And so it's just really sad. Like Rick, my Uncle Rick is my blood relative. There's no blood on my mom's side. And there has never been a single incident or reason for Rick to doubt anything I say or any of my mental acumen. Yet you can tell in that situation, like, they had already been primed that whatever, I'm some sort of person that has like mental breakdowns, which I never had. Like, it's very frustrating. I don't have that. Not only do I not have that, I am one of the top authentication and sports card collectors in the world, in terms of just knowing what they're doing. And you can't be that or become that without constantly searching for the truth, like, all the time in everything you do. And it's not about ever being right. It's always about getting things right and poring over your findings all the time and testing out hypotheses. It's just like so counter to who I am. Any sort of thing that any sort of tolerance for just having like a mental breakdown or something like that. But you could tell that that's what they were primed for. And so they said they contacted the police, and maybe they did, but it wasn't them who saved me. What ends up saving me, all those phone calls I made, and a couple people got back to me and said that later on in the day, or the next day, said that, oh, it sounds like the police were contacted and everything was okay. And I was trying to explain to them, like, no matter what happened to me, that's the story that they'd be given. This is what ends up saving me. Of all the phone calls I made a call to Curry County. Here I am in like Duval County, Florida, literally on the opposite coast. And I called Curry County, and when I say Curry County, I called 541. Whatever number I called, I accidentally reached, I think it was like Century 21 or some realty. Okay. And I said, oh, my bad. Hey, do you have the number for the Curry County Sheriff? Sheriff Department. And they said, they looked it up and said, okay, that's whatever. And they gave me the number. So then I called from that phone the sheriff, and I reached the dispatcher in Curry County, Oregon. The sheriff's dispatch is a lady. And this lady saved my life. I don't think she even knows that right now. Definitely doesn't. But I just tried to explain to her. I said, hey, my name's Gabe Donnelly. It's a really unusual phone call. I'm a graduate of Gold Beach High School. I'm from Gold Beach. In this really awful situation. And, could you please, as a courtesy call, could you please contact the, the Duval County Sheriff? I did my best to explain to her that I couldn't, on my end, I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know at that moment it was cell site simulator. Not that it would have mattered. Like, you can't just throw around that term expecting people to know what the hell it means, right? So I said that, and I could tell that it wasn't a situation where she was like, oh yeah, no problem, I got you. It was kind of like, okay, this sounds really weird, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways. And it's like, whatever. Yeah, you'd like to swing for the fences, right? And smash a ball like over the fence in that situation and drive in the winning run to like save your life. But sometimes you swing and you like barely make contact and the ball is like just barely like, dribbling past home plate, and you take off running towards first base, and you better fucking make it. And I just made it. That's the phone call that got me out of that miserable, fucking terrible situation. And that was like baseball nuns, like bottom of the ninth, like fucking 2 outs. At that point, it's like, I don't even remember. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11. Like, I've got to get out of there soon. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is one more thing. Remember that freezing cold air? The second day, it switched to hot air. You thought you were in pain on the freezing cold air. Remember, I can't leave that room. So when I didn't leave that first night, they switched it up to hot air, as hot as can be. It was a fucking nightmare in there. It was so hot. It was so hot that I had to resort. There's nothing you can do. You couldn't open the window up there. You couldn't go to another room. You couldn't turn that down. Nothing. So I had to resort to. I turned on the shower, as cold as it can be, and for relief. And poor mongoose. Yeah, but they were doing anything they could to get me out of that room. To expedite sort of me going out into an unprotected area. And yeah, can you imagine that though? You can't turn off the cold air for a while, then they switch it to like brutally hot air. Yeah. I've never seen a hotel room like that in my life. Like, that was a setup situation on top of everything else for that room. Like, that, think about that. But so yeah, these 2 officers showed up at noon or so, and I asked them, how are you guys, basically, like, how are you here? And they let me know that it was the, more or less, it was the phone call that the frantic call that I made to Curry County Sheriff's Department dispatcher. That's it. If it wasn't for that created an official record. You see that? That caller, that dispatcher, right, wasn't part of whatever this horrible situation, right? So they called as a professional courtesy, the police, sheriff's department, and as a result of that, they had to send people over and account for. Still another way of putting it, it's exactly what didn't happen the night before when I called 311 to get a police officer to take a report and get my name and all that. That's what they were trying to avoid. See that? This is like unbelievably important. This is another way that the whole entire case is made. So, as a result of me calling the Curry County Sheriff Department, then they sent these 2 officers over. They didn't look too pleased when they got there, and I was like, I wanted to like give them a hug. Yeah, people are watching this, and they, yeah, I'm on the East Coast at the moment, but if they can, somebody can please let that person know. It's the dispatcher who worked, whoever the sheriff's department dispatcher. You let them know that they saved my life by doing that, at least temporarily. Okay, that means something to me. Oh, yeah, makes them feel real good too. Because I really appreciate it. So yeah, we'll pick this up in a little bit.